Hey, you don't need no stinking realtor, and that's why you're here again for another riveting episode in segment number 6 regarding vetting buyers without a realtor. This one exploring motivations and timeline. Now, in case you were wondering which hat you're going to be wearing this time, it's the personal investigator hat, private investigator hat. You're going to be needling, digging, asking all the questions you possibly can about your buyers and their motivations. And suffice it to say, this is the transactional capital, as I described in any real estate sale, is motivation. If somebody is very motivated to buy your home, regardless of what hiccups might present themselves along the way, they're going to get it done. The squeaky wheel always gets the grease, right? If you have some rate lock issue, they're going to pay it and get that rate lock extension. If you have a debt problem on their loan, they're going to figure out a way to get through it and actually get that money. Inspections, contingencies of any kind, these buyers, if they are very motivated, will figure out a way to get to the finish line and buy your home. Conversely, if it's just an investor or something maybe, and the price isn't that rosy, and maybe they could make a buck on your home, maybe they couldn't, they don't really care. A very low percentage that they might actually bring the sale to consummation. So you've got to figure out what's driving them. The unfortunate reality is, Mr. and Mrs. Private Investigator, they got no reason to tell you. And frankly, when I am representing you, should I ever get to that point, and I am representing my sellers, there's a reason. It's an arm's length transaction. If a buyer or a buyer's agent shows up to my seller's property and starts asking all kinds of questions about my seller's motivations to sell, I can simply say things like, I'm sorry, I can't speak to that. I don't know much about the seller's reasoning. I just know that they'd like to sell their house, so they hired a professional. Me. It's completely understandable for me to say something like that. Why would I necessarily have any information about my seller's motivations or life or circumstances or anything at all, other than the fact then they want to sell their property, and that's my job. My job is not necessarily to understand all of the details surrounding their life. Sure, I most likely do, and it's important for me to do my job to understand everybody's motivations and help them guide them towards the perfect avenue to attaining their goals. And it takes understanding their entire lives most of the time to do that. But I don't have to divulge any of that information. I'm sorry, I can't really speak to that. That's the seller's details, and I'm not at liberty to divulge. But you don't have no stinking realtor, and these buyers may come in and start asking you all these questions. Now, you can be tactful. You can let a little bit of information out for the benefit of getting a little information, answer a question with a question. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, why are you selling this home? It's beautiful. Why would you ever want to leave? Well, I've loved this home for many, many years, but I think it might be time for me to move on. What's your interest in my home? You've given up really no information, but now you're asking a question, and we're relying on public decorum here. Small talk is generally allowed, even in situations with legal ramifications like the showing process of a property for sale. So people generally don't have issue with answering these questions. Now, their agents, on the other hand, might give you the full stop. I'm sorry, but my buyer's motivations for purchasing are their own, and we'd rather not talk about those. It could give you the bad taste in your mouth, maybe, but these are people's lives, and there could be real ramifications to divulging the reasons for their sale. Now, if the reasons for their sale are going to benefit their position, if the reasons for their purchase are going to benefit their position, people willingly give up this information, of course, and you can look for those details. But it's up to you to really drag this stuff out of people. Now, a very, very important note on needling people for information: you really need to abide by the fair housing regulations, and you need to understand them first to then be able to guide yourself in the right directions on what questions to ask and maybe when to shut up and stop asking questions. So it is illegal in the state of Rhode Island, many other states, and there are federal fair housing laws as well. And those fair housing laws create protected classes that disallow you as a seller from discriminating against a buyer for any of these protected classes. So things like sex, sexual orientation, creed, religion, race, national origin, many others depending on your state, your local municipality, and federal law. And those are going to govern what questions you can and can't ask. Now, there are certain exceptions to these rules, and we're not going to talk about them on this video because that's up to you to interpret based on, again, the local and federal laws surrounding your particular property ownership. This may be someplace you live in, it may be your primary residence, it may be second home, vacation home, investment, who the hell knows? And all of those regulations differ based on those circumstances, but pay careful attention to these sorts of things. You do not want to get yourself in hot water, breaking the law because you're asking the wrong questions or, heaven forbid, acting on some information that you'd gotten and making decisions based on discriminatory thoughts and feelings. So now let's look at timeline. And the golden nugget here is once you have understood as much as you can about a buyer's motivations for arriving at your property and wanting to purchase it, hopefully, you can marry those motivations with whatever their timeline might be and then align them with your own. If you are looking for a quick sale because you just got to get that money to buy this new condo in Florida so you can move, you need a buyer that's willing to facilitate a quick sale. That might affect your price. You might be looking at that investor then who's willing to give you cash, which is a quick sale. Just as soon as the title company can do the title research, that buyer is able to close, 30 days, less maybe. If you are looking for the absolute ultimate highest price, maybe you're looking for that buyer who still has a home to sell and knows that their offer is in a very poor position as compared to some other offers because they don't even have the money they need to get a loan yet. They need to sell their home first. That's very problematic and very risky, so they're willing to offer really high prices to win that bid. Whatever the case may be, join those buyers, their motivation, and their resulting timeline with your own. You have somebody that's willing, that's looking to do relocation services because they've got a new job or their home burned down and their insurance company is relocating them. There's a short window of time generally that these folks have to actually consummate a sale, and if they do, the amount of money that they're given, both in purchase price and money to actually facilitate the sale, is stronger. They could be getting big chunks of money for their move, for brokers' commissions, for their appraisal and inspections. Paying for these real estate professionals on the sideline. Those people really want a lightning fast approval on their offer. They're going to really be shooting high, and you get the best of both worlds. Understand all these buyers and their motivations so that you can pick the best one. All right, now we're going to move on to the final episode in segment 6. This is episode number 4, and we're going to look at the buyers and their team overall and hopefully give you some insight on how to judge these people in their ability to actually come to an effective sale. We'll see you there. Deuces.